What's up, everybody? Did I scare you?
Yes.
A little bit. Well, because a minute ago when I looked past, there was your frozen face, and then the other you walked away. And I was like, okay.
Welcome, everyone, to But Then What? Our 100% improvised storytelling game podcast. I don't know. It's something that we're doing, and we're having fun doing it. I have two amazing people here with me today. So without further ado, I will pass it to them to introduce themselves. LaTia, would you mind going first?
Who am I? It's a question I ask myself daily. Hi, I'm LaTiaJacquise. You may know me as the community manager for Dungeons and Dragons at Wizards of the Coast. You may know me as a streamer or writer of things, or you may know me because I'm obsessed with stationery and I tweet about it a lot. Or you may know me from my dog, who I also tweet lots of pictures of. Either way, I'm happy to be here and I love storytelling. Um, and so let's do the thing.
Let's do it. Mallorie, who are you?
One existential crisis after the next. Uh, so I'm Mallorie Mize. I use they, she pronouns. Uh, a lot of times, whether that's in the regular 9 to 5 or in tabletop, I work in a lot of fundraising, sponsorship, engagement sort of stuff. I am also a game designer. I am a game master. Pretty much at anywhere anybody wants me to be a game master. And I love to play all the games, but I grew up as your resident theater kid, which is why I said yes to being on an all improv storytelling show.
Yay, theater to TRPG pipeline.
Heck yeah.
John.
Incredible. Well, I'm Siera, aka Mystic. You know me, hopefully. I am the creative director and founder of Automoon Studio. I'm the DM of our D&D podcast, Utopia. And I am also a game producer for D&D at Wizards of the Coast. You heard that right. LaTia and I are co-workers. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's great. From there, with my awkwardness, we're gonna talk about the show. So, But Then What, as I mentioned, is a 100% improvised storytelling game. If you're the first one here, I will let you know that if this is your first time here, rather, I'll let you know that this is not planned in advance. We know very little, if anything at all, about what kind of story we're going to be telling. I am going to be generating a plot randomly from an online plot generator, and we're going to be telling a story based on that plot. There was an option to go full send chaos. We did not take that option today. Today, we're going to be telling you a fantasy genre story. So, without further ado, I'm going to hit the generate button and we'll see what pops up. Okay. Our protagonist is an assassin who is stubborn to a fault.
Ooh.
Okay. There's an optional secondary character who is an enchantress in training who is a worrywart. And the general plot premise is it's a historical fantasy story about unlikely friendships. It kicks off in a quaint abode with news of an ascension to the throne.
Okay.
And the twist is that the story is an alternative history.
Ooh.
Yeah. So let me copy and paste this into our lovely ticker that will be ticking away at the top of the screen here.
Heck yeah.
Thoughts? Happy? Confused?
Just trying to pick the right the right history to fictionalize.
Right.
If
Same.
you get what I'm saying, which, okay, ascension to the throne. Who?
Ooh, yes.
Good question.
It's still fantasy, so we don't have to be too consistent with history. Whose history? I don't know. Let's make it up as we go, you know?
That's fair. That's fair. What I will say though is that I don't think either of these protagonists are like directly related to whoever is like coming into the crown, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think they're just tangentially or just,
Yeah.
people in the city? I'm cool with that. All right. Last thing to do before we start the story is to figure out who's going to go first. And to do that, I'm going to pick a random number between 1 and 10. And then y'all just get to guess. So I have my number.
Mallory, you guess first.
4.
7.
It was 3. So
Oh,
Mallory
interesting.
gets to
Okay.
start us off.
Okay.
You got this. I believe in you.
Thank you for believing in me more than I believe in myself in this moment, but we are gonna get there. Okay. Okay. Historical fantasy, stubborn assassin, worried enchantress in training,
Mm-hmm.
alternative historical fiction or fantasy 2, somebody ascending to the throne. Got it. I wrote it all down, but I was like, I've got to keep it up here if I want to say literally anything right.
It also starts in a quaint abode. So there's
In a quaint abode. Thank
Yes.
you. I totally forgot that part. That is very important. Because it will absolutely affect the words I say first.
Awesome. Well, we will pass it to you. I will start the timer in 3, 2, 1.
Our story begins at the edge of a moderate kingdom, we'll say. Not something that you would hear about in all of the traditional fairy tales that children would speak of, that their parents would tell them as they laid down for bed, but something that is big enough to be noticed. It's enough to be on a map, but is certainly not big enough to warrant anything like, large tournaments coming through or anything like that. But at the edge of this moderate kingdom, there is a small home that looks very much like it does not belong here. It does not look in architecture as any other building in this place, and it is just far enough away that you would question whether it is supposed to be a part of this kingdom at all. It's gray stonework with patched together sort of like white fencing around it. Looks very, almost like it belongs in a sort of countryside rather than near any big population. But through the open window, you can see a young woman who's maybe in her early 20s. She's got golden brown hair that goes down to about her waist. She's got fair skin with lots of freckles and big blue eyes. And she sits at a small table with papers strewn all over the place, writing through each of these spells that she has memorized over and over and over again, but writes it once more for memory because she is pretty insistent that anything that she will need in the moment, she will forget. Her love comes into the room, a sort of mask presenting person with darker skin, black hair that is cut very short and dark brown eyes, and they come behind her and rub her shoulders once again for what is probably the 12th time today, and just say, "My love, you worry too much. You are wonderful at what you do. And though you are still in training, I fully believe that you are capable of so many great things. You will do so well." And they kiss the top of her head as they leave their home. And she will hurriedly grab all her papers, uh, does not say a word, but does blow a kiss as they leave. And as she gathers all these papers, she hurriedly stuffs them in her bag.
But then what?
But then what?
But
My
then
turn.
what?
She stuffs the papers into her bag, and as she runs through the small village past herds of sheep and goats, there's even some geese crossing the dirt path that she wanders through. She startles them, they honk angrily. She knows them all by name. She just throws a hand, scoffing as she continues papers in a bag around her body, until she finds her way to the local market, and there is a child standing at the corner of the very small village, saying, "5 pence! Got the paper for you! 5 pence! Who needs a paper?" And she goes over and says, "I'll take a paper. It'll be 5 pence." I heard you say that already. And she hands the child the money and takes a paper where she sees a big headline. The ever regal Charleston Basher has ascended to the throne. And there's a hastily, almost like a courtroom sketch drawing of him on the throne. Big old crown on his head, big velvet looking cowl around his body, almost like a cape. She crumbles the paper tightly in her hand, crinkling the edges. "Is this really the news?" she says to the child. He just looks up at her. "I know, I just say 5 pence and hand out the papers." "Right. Where do you get these papers from?" "At the printer down the way." Of course. She turns on her heel, leaving her previous venture to town, her bag still around her body, to walk toward the printer as this somewhat familiar face haunts her in the image of the person on the throne. The cobblestone breaks way under her feet as the dirt roads give to the stone of just the single main road, the only stone street in the village. She passes a small tavern and a town hall, and then makes her way around the corner to the printer shop. Inside is a gnomish man.
But then what?
But then what?
But then what?
But then what?
Before the gnomish man can say his greeting, she storms in and, not quite throwing the paper at his face, she says, "Who brought this news to you?" And he says, somewhat confused, because everybody knows that there's a person who goes from village to village and gives people the news. And so he says, the village, the village crier, who now that we print things, he doesn't have much reason to cry anymore, so he comes and he gives us the news and we print it. And we pay him well for his efforts, mind you. And the girl who her anger somewhat deflating at the fact that, I mean, obviously he didn't give this, he only printed it. Um, and she kind of huffs and says, "Well, where's the crier? I would like to talk to him about this." And he says, "Well, once he gives us, once he gives us the news, I don't know where I mean, you might find him at the tavern. Um, before he heads elsewhere to give more news, I suppose." And she looks at this small gnomish man who is very confusedly adjusting a very small pair of spectacles on his largish nose. Uh a slight sheen of sweat across his like balding forehead. Um she says, "Well, fine, I guess. Um thank you. And I'm sorry I was so rude. Uh just wasn't expecting to hear news like this today." Um and the gnomish man says, "That's quite all right. I understand. It doesn't mean much to us little folk, but it's always an occasion when there's a new ruler on the throne." And she says something to the effect of, "I suppose so," but she's already on her way out the door, back down the main cobblestone street to a large two-story building um, that she passed not very long ago. And as she approaches it, the normal sounds of tavern cheer and rowdy singing and drinking are absent for once, um, as she makes her way into the tavern to find the traveling crier.
But then what?
Then what?
And then what?
We're on an adventure now.
So she finds the traveling crier, who is weary in his travels, as this is one of the last towns that he stops at on his sort of cycle before he goes back to the beginning. He sits with an ale in his hand. The only person in this entire tavern, even the bartender or the barkeep, is not behind the counter at this point. He sits almost panting, still trying to catch his breath from running through town, as she approaches, and she just slams the newspaper on his table, still very worried in her sort of confusion about what is happening, and says, "Can you give me an explanation about this?" And he looks at the paper and then looks at her and looks back at the paper. "I really only go and yell about the things I'm told to yell about. I don't have a lot of structure. I don't make the choices. Someone just looks at me and goes, 'Hey, you should let people go know this.' And then I run a lot, and then I reward myself with with a beer in an empty tavern. I'm Why are you angry? Are you angry at me? Did I like flatten your flowers on my way through town? I'm so sorry if I destroyed your garden. Why are you What do you want an explanation on?" And he's just keeps cycling through and is still panting and kind of panicking at this point because he's used to people being mad about the news, but he's in here alone and the paper was slammed and he's like, there's just a lot of things happening at once. uh so she looks at him and takes a deep breath and says, "I apologize. I do not mean to scare you in any way. I appreciate that you do your job, but why? Why is this happening? Why did it happen? Why is it going to keep is he there for good? Is there Can we vote on this? I don't love it. And I'm kind of concerned for what it means for forever. So if we could maybe just," and he once again stops and goes, "I don't I don't think there's a choice like that. I Not that I've heard of. If there was a choice like that, I feel like people would have told me to spread the news about that one. Um and it's not one that I've had to go yell about yet. So if you know something I don't, I can start yelling it in the next town over and then make the loop again. And then this can just be like the new bait. Is that okay?" Is that is that okay? She she once again takes a deep breath, realizing that she is asking much too much of someone that is just paid to run around town and yell the news and tell it to the new printers. Um, but then what? What happens then?
Um, I I'm sorry. Have a good day. She turns on her heel really quickly, her cloak kind of flowing behind her as she just storms out of the tavern. She steps out into the fresh spring air and just takes a deep breath, lets it go. Someone else comes out, kind of runs into her. You can't stand in the doorway, miss. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay. She starts walking. And she continues her way to the lone tower here in this small village. It's got no doors to enter. It stands tall, kind of jutting this way and that in its brick formation. A lightning line arcs from the top occasionally. She steps to the base, whispers a few magical words, and teleports herself inside, where there is a lovely wizard, ready and waiting. You are very late, she says, lightning kind of sparking between her fingers as she stirs tea magically, not having to stir with her hand. Oh, yeah, sorry. Did you see the news? She slams the crinkled up piece of paper onto the desk. I did, yes. And you're okay with it? I am? Sure. After what he did? Yeah, people can grow and change. So he didn't cut it as a wizard. That's okay. Not everyone does. Okay? Not everyone's as smart as you. Is that what you want to hear this morning? She kind of placates to this woman. Not exactly, no. But whatever. Let's just do the lessons. I've got a lot of pent up rage I need to get out. And as she says that, she shoots a firebolt across the room towards a standing dummy that kind of ignites and smolders. Right. Okay. Starting with combat magic. Got it. We haven't done that in a while. That makes sense. And they head over to where the dummies are and sort of begin to go through the motions of enchantress training in a wizard tower. The thought of the ascended individual is still on her mind. But then what?
But then what?
I think you're muted, LaTia.
Oh no, you're muted.
Oh no, I am not muted anymore.
Yeah.
I was laughing too hard. I couldn't. I needed to get my laughs out.
Yeah.
All right. Elsewhere in this small, moderate kingdom, big enough to be worthy of a big dot on the map, not a small dot. And a little model of the castle. Like that's how moderate, like it's big enough to that it gets a little castle model. But elsewhere in this moderate kingdom, in a dark chamber, the king himself, King Charleston Basher, newly ascended, sits in this dark room pondering, as kings are often wont to do. And while he's pondering, a figure appears beside him. No doors opened, no windows cracked. And this figure says, "Your ascension is progressing exactly as we planned. Now that you are here, sire, what is your next move? And the newly ascended king says, first, I'm going to enjoy my triumph, my loyal servant. Then we will put our plans into motion. And the figure beside him, standing somewhat like to behind and to the one side of him, says, do you think that the greater population will be okay with this? And the king says, somewhat dryly, they have to be. I'm the king. What I say goes. And in this darkened room, uh, it's briefly illuminated by a similar crackle of electric lightning energy that crackles between the king's steepled fingertips and between the spaces of his steepled hands. And the figure beside him says, "You are indeed the king." And he walks out. The somewhat smirk on his face uh souring into a frown. But then what?
But then what?
Oh, okay. So as his face sours, King Charleston sits and stares now out the window over this kingdom that he now resides over and watches a single figure, too far away to tell quite who it is, but leaves out of a small brick building and adjoins to an adjacent tower, not the one we saw earlier, but one that is sort of across the way. And we follow that figure into that tower. A very built man comes in carrying a quiver and bow and meets essentially a group of what look to be at first sight just a group of rangers that may be, practicing archery together. Though as he shuts the door and it bolts behind him, other banners come down off walls to reveal that this is a large group of trained assassins that now meet here for their monthly meetings under the guise of practicing archery together. Um, and they each pass around a newspaper, one that was picked up from that small boy early this morning, sharing the news together of what there is to be. Most don't say much about it. It's another king on another day. Nothing that's too surprising or shocking. But the man that we've followed in here seems to have his own thoughts. And while he does not share them out loud with the group, uh, he's fairly unbothered, but also upset. He's not a man of change, and more so would just uh, rather there not be a king at all if he had anything to say about it. But he can't just go and assassinate anyone at any time. Contrary to popular belief, that is not how assassins work. So he will take this paper and rummages through it during the meeting. And while others are making decisions about other hits that need to be made for the greater good of their kingdom, he has decided that his eyes have been set on a bigger prize. Not immediately. There must be a reason, because then he can come out and say that he did it and take credit. If it's before that, it's a problem. But set in his ways, he has a new mark. He just has to wait for the right time to take his shot. I'm going to let my 4 seconds run out because I'm happy with where that ended.
Nice.
Nice.
But then what?
But then what?
Hey, do we have to like keep going? Like, can we take a minute to like stop and talk
Do
about
you want
this
to
for a
stop and
second?
talk about it? We can. We haven't
Yeah.
before, but
Yeah.
we can talk
Yeah.
about it. What's up?
We make the rules here.
This is our story.
There's a lot going on.
We've got so our worrywart enchantress I didn't think she was not competent, but yeah, she's super competent and I love that
Yeah.
about her. But she's also very, very, very worried. And I love the way that you, Mallory, did that.
Thanks.
Like, is this a forever thing? Is this can we vote him out? How does that work?
Yes.
Gotta come up with all the solutions, you know? What are all of our options that we could lay out on the table right now?
Exactly.
Let's look at all of them up front.
How do we make this not happen anymore? How do we make this not be a thing?
What if this could just go away really quickly? What if we called like takesy backsies? Like, let's not. We can try again. We can pick anybody else. I really don't mind.
Maybe they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And
is it possible there was like a smudge on the paper that said who it was supposed to be next? It could be anything, really. I'll take any reason to get him out.
Good. Oh man.
Yeah.
I love this, first of all. So I just want to say that. Like, I mean, I really just wanted to stop and take a minute to admire all of our creativity.
Yeah.
Yes, I literally love this. I was like, this is great. The minute that you brought the child into this, and he was like, I don't know, I just say 5 pence and I take it and I hand you a paper and that's really my whole job. And I was like, so she's gonna question everybody. Got it. The first person that she sees when I'm talking again.
I also love this child because like he's like his whole thing is he says 5 pence, people give him something and he gives them a paper. I don't think he knows whether or not people are actually giving him 5 pence.
Absolutely not. There's no way.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's like of the age that he's like, but they gave me a coin, so it must be right.
Right.
Why would adults lie to me?
Also,
Exactly.
I'll say I completely forgot the king's name as soon as I said it. So I was really glad, LaTia, when you brought that back around.
Well, because I am just really thrilled that I get to call him King Basher. Right?
Yeah.
It's a great name.
It's a great name.
Charleston is one of those first names people sleep on sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure his friends before he ascended called him like Seabash or something like that.
Yeah. Some of his friends, if they ever visit him in this castle, will still call him Seabash.
We'll still call him Seabash.
Then he's got to like look at everybody that works for him and goes, none of you can say that. Only my friends can say that.
I'm just thinking of a fish now. His hands are clammy.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Good. All right. It's your turn, isn't it, Siera?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Ready to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Where do we? Oh yeah, this assassin.
We left with our assassin looking over his choices and making decisions, but I left it there so you can follow whoever you want.
As the meeting of the assassins comes to a close, the new target being chosen, the individual begins to think of how they might try to gather some dirt to find the reason to make the mark, and sneaks their way into the castle. Not to steal, not to pillage, not to murder, but to simply have some conversations with the staff. Staff hear all, staff know all, and for the right price, most of them are willing to give you bits of information. It's not long before one of the handmaids tells our assassin that Seabash's mother was constantly complaining about him as a child and how he flunked out of wizard training with the great wizard of Duckville. Insert name here. Our assassin takes that information and instantly packs a bag and begins the day and a half journey to Duckville, our quaint town. In that time, our enchantress has finished her wizarding lessons, still worrying. Worrying for herself, worrying for her teacher, for her small village, for the target that may be pressed upon them, knowing how upset King Basher was when he was asked to leave and to cease his training as a wizard. She gets home, her partner there, rubbing her shoulders, a few tight squeezes. She chops the potatoes for dinner. She doesn't say anything about her worry to them. She doesn't want them to worry. And as they have a restless night's sleep, we wake up in the morning to a knock on the door. But then what?
But then what? Oh no, but then what? Okay. So, the knock on the door startles both our enchantress and her partner, because they definitely weren't expecting visitors. And with some apprehension, they open the door to see, of all people, the enchantress's teacher, who has come by quite unceremoniously. She even looks a little out of place outside of her tower, dressed quite elegantly for someone who lives in this small town on the edge of the kingdom. And the enchantress, of course, invites her in, and she says, as she sits down, um, I couldn't help but think about what you said yesterday and the news that we discovered before your lesson. And something about it didn't sit right with me. So I came to ask a favor. Now, you've been studying with me for some years, and despite your reservations, I know that you are a very, very competent enchantress, um, whose potential has yet to be fully realized. But maybe, why don't you take a journey to the capital? And you don't have to visit our old friend per se, but maybe you could situate yourself in the castle or nearby for a while to get the measure of him, so to speak. Now, I wouldn't ask you this, uh, thanklessly, as she sees both her pupil and her partner begin to, um, kind of begin to say things in protest. And she says, "No, no, I will pay for your travel. I will make sure that you are well taken care of and that you are well situated when you get to the capital. And I just want you to get the measure of it. You know, obviously, you have some reservations. I have some reservations. We might not be the only ones with reservations. And it, take as long as you need to decide, but I would love for you to do
But then
this. Then what?
what?
She looks at her teacher with a mixture of this curiosity of wanting to know, and also, why would you ever ask this of me? This is the worst homework you've ever had me do. Uh, and will sort of, as she grips the hand that has found her shoulder from her partner, I have a few questions, just a few questions, just like 5, 6, 9, 10 questions. Uh, when, where, how, with who? Um, but no, I have a lot more beyond that. Never mind, scratch that. That's not even the ones at the top of the list. Um, what is the purpose? How dangerous could this be? What all should I take with me? Where, when do I leave? Can Sebastian come with me? There's just a lot going on. But you're right. We are worried. Some of us may be more clearly worried than others, and someone has to go do it. And I guess that should probably be me. Sure, I can make up something to get in the castle. I'm a great liar. Don't worry about that at all. It's gonna be a-okay. Don't you worry about it. Okay, but all the questions, and she starts to write down every question she has, and Sebastian, sort of knowing how this will play out, he skipped the middle part, being her partner. They have already gathered all of the things that she will need to take with her. And the teacher just sits and stares, knowing this is how years of studying has progressed. But now, on the bright side, her young pupil now only writes maybe a third of the questions that she used to, prior to every sort of field trip, I guess you'll say. Not that many have been like this one. And so she writes all of them out, goes through them one by one, realizes that most of the answers really came in that beginning speech from her teacher, and she just sort of panicked through all of them, and says, okay, this is my job. I will go do it. This is a part of a good training regimen. And so I will contact you when I get there. And she turns around, gives Sebastian a quick kiss as they say their goodbyes, and takes the bag that Sebastian has already packed in her own worry, and leaves their small home, walks through the village, and goes down the main street of the kingdom. But then what?
But then what?
Oh man.
Can you tell I like playing our worried little enchantress friend with all her questions?
As she leaves the village and hits the road, her worrying does not subside. It continues. Mind racing, racing thoughts. She tries to just count the numbers of squirrels that she sees on the path. The road is oddly quiet, and yet it's maybe about a half a day's journey into her walk toward the kingdom. She sees a man dressed in fine combat leathers with a bow and arrow on his back, a quiver of arrows ready to go, and a small pack. And she just can't help but ask or say, hello. As she keeps walking awkwardly, she looks down at her feet, looks up at the person. Lovely day we're having. The assassin looks at our enchantress. Yeah. It's great. It's not raining. Yeah. At this point, they've both kind of like awkwardly slowed their walk. The conversation doesn't continue, but they both stop facing each other. Can I help you with something? The assassin looks at the enchantress. No, it's been kind of a lonely walk, and, where are you headed? Duckville. Oh, that's where I'm from! Really? Yeah. Where are you headed? Oh, the kingdom. Any reason? Oh, yeah. There's a new king. She giggles nervously. The assassin with a keen eye and a keen insight can tell there's something she's not saying. You're right. There is a new king. That's why I'm going to Duckville. Do you happen to know the wizard there? The enchantress eyes get big for a second, and she catches herself, shakes her head, and stands up straighter. Yeah, definitely. Very cool. She's great. I don't really know her that well, though, Like, it's not that small of a town. She chuckles nervously. But then what?
But then what?
But then what?
But then what? And the assassin continues to like assess her. Um, because she definitely looks like she's never left the walls of her city a day in her life. Um, and he says, well, I mean, what do you know of her? And she just continues to chuckle and she's like, "Oh, I mean, I just know that she's uh pretty cool at doing um the magic that I also do. I do the magic and she does the magic and we do the magic together and sometimes she teaches me new magic and but yeah, she's pretty cool. Um are you going to learn magic?" And the assassin says, "No, no, magic's not my thing. I just I heard about her and I thought she'd be a pretty cool person to see." He says, like, trying to, like, match her energy in a way that he absolutely cannot, right? Um, but yeah, and so have you ever left Duckville before? Like, do you know where you're gonna stop or whatever? It's like a day and a half to get to the capital, and she's like, "I didn't this was kind of random. This was on a whim. I just figured I there's gotta be an inn or something." And the assassin kind of, like, shakes his head, and of all the people he could meet on his way to Duckville, like, of all the bars in the world, she walked into mine. And so, he says, "Look, if you look, you look like a fast walker, so I'm pretty sure you'll get there, but if you don't, um, like, head into the forest about 330 yards or so. There's a little place where you can, like, shelter for the night. You look resourceful. I'm sure you'll be fine." Um, yeah, like, look for the big dead tree, and you'll be good. There's, like, rations and stuff. You'll be fine. Um, and she says, I mean, that's a really weird thing to say to somebody that you just met who you really don't know, but I guess thanks. I mean, it's very resourceful of you, very helpful of you, but I'm just gonna call it, it was weird." And by this point, he's kind of already walking away. And so as he's walking away from her, she just kinda, like, turns and, like, shouts to his back, "Thanks, I guess?"
But then
But then
what?
what?
Then what?
As she starts to stumble back on the path that she had started, she kind of just mutters to herself under her breath, "Strange man tells you to go to a place in the woods, like just out in alone, that's strange and scary, and but maybe I'll do it if I need to. I should have asked those questions. And she will keep along with her bag, sort of watching as the skyline changes from the silhouette of buildings of her quaint little village to the sort of in between forests and woods until she can reach the main kingdom. And as the sky begins to get dark, the sun is in the later points of setting where the sky turns from the like deep oranges into the beginnings of the purples into deep blues. She starts to remember again the weird advice from the strange man that she met on her travels. Okay, he said something about in the woods and there's a dead tree and there are rations there. So how do I find a dead tree? And she sits on the ground because she cannot multitask for anything and pulls all of these papers out that she had been writing this morning of knowing when I need it, I'll forget it. When I need it, I'll forget it. And they're not in a spell book or anything. They're not consolidated in any fashion. It's just a stack of papers that are sort of crumpled together. And as she takes them out of her bag, a wind whips through and carries some of the pages away into the woods. Well, now I can't get to the tree in the woods if the papers are in the woods. Damn it! And she runs, chasing the paper that seems to be going the fastest at this point as it weaves in and out of trees with the wind, almost like the air itself has a path for her to take. She grabs the sort of slower stragglers as she navigates the ones that have hit trees or have been stuck on branches. One landed in a weird bush that has a strange shape that somehow caught the edge of the paper in a thorn before it could fly too far away. And as she follows this one piece of paper, it sort of winds and goes through branches and under brush and fallen logs, taking its own path until it stumbles upon the dead tree the assassin had been speaking of. And as she grabs the page, it is listed as a traveler's journey. But then what?
Ooh, but then what?
I don't know. You give me all these cliffhangers. Our enchantress begins to bed down for the evening. She is grateful that her partner was smart enough. They had packed her a lovely sleeping pad. As she goes into the tree, lays it out, she uses a simple fire spell to start a little fire outside the tree and sets up a safety alarm before she starts to doze. And while all that is happening, along the road, our assassin comes to Duckville. And ever since that interaction on the road with that enchantress, he's wondered if he needs to do the original thing he wanted to do, if he needs to make it all the way there, if he needs to have a conversation with this wizard. Clearly, that person needed help, doesn't know what she's doing, and also had more information than she let on. This nagging want to make sure they're okay for their own informational need, not from the good of their heart. You see the ducks and the geese crossing the road, and the sheep and the tower in the distance, maybe less than a half a mile away. Grumble, God damn it. Turn on their heel and begin to walk back, hoping to find the tree to make sure our enchantress is okay. It's dark. It's the middle of the night. The alarm spell goes off. Our enchantress jolts upright, sticks and leaves stuck in her hair, her boots laid next to the sleeping mat, knocked over by the jolt. The assassin calls out, "Hello? Please tell me you're not dead." "Hello? Is that who are you? What do you want? I know magic." She holds out her hands towards the entrance of the tree. "It's me, the person that told you to stay here. Do you remember? My name's Bertram. I didn't tell you that earlier. Can I sleep in there? I don't have to sleep on the same pad, but it's shelter, and I would like some rest."
Oh boy.
But then what?
But then
I
what?
love that we have just named one of the two main characters, and
I
we're this
know.
far into it. The entire time we have not given either of them names. It's been great.
They don't need names.
They don't need names.
Except for
Yes.
now. Except for now.
They're
they do.
Bertram the assassin and the enchantress.
And the enchantress in training.
Incredible.
Okay. So it's the next morning. As the sunlight begins to filter in through the leaves of the living trees around this half-fallen dead tree, we see that the enchantress is sleeping on the bedroll that she has created for that she was given by her partner, and kind of huddled in a corner. For all trees can have corners. Um, Sitting with his back up against the bark, um, knees tucked in, but head down. Is the assassin is Bertram, who is also asleep. The ground around him disturbed as if he had been sleeping in many positions before this, and now this was just the most comfortable one for him. He is the first to awaken as an assassin with many years of sleepless nights and even what am I trying to say here? He's used to sleeping lightly. Um, and as he awakes to see our enchantress main character, who I'm still not gonna name, sleeping, um, he ponders for a moment whether or not he should just leave, um, and either complete the objective he set out to, or to return back to the capital, information ungathered. Uh, the enchantress bolts upright, uh, from a dead sleep, jumps up off of her bedroll and says, "Oh my god, I'm late for class. She's going to kill me. I can't be late 2 days in a row. I can't be late 2 days in a row." And she begins this process of packing up all of her things extremely unceremoniously. Loose spell pages go flying everywhere before she realizes she's not at home. She doesn't have class today. She's on a mission. And as the previous day's events fly through her head, she remembers that before going to sleep last night, she was interrupted by a stranger. And just as she looks over, he says, "Sup, glad to see you found it. I began to doubt whether or not you would, but you're a little bit more resourceful than I thought." Which is the second time in 2 days that she's heard that.
But then what, Mallory?
But
Yesterday you said I was resourceful, or that I looked resourceful, and you thought I could find the tree, and then this morning you're saying you didn't think I was resourceful enough to find the tree. Which One, is it for the matter? I think magic helped me find the tree. It was either that or just a really weird coincidence about the wind. Who's to say? Uh, but thank you, or you're rude. I don't know which one it is. I didn't mean anything by it. He says as he does like the old man thing of trying to stand up, where you definitely hear the ugh as he gets to his feet. He didn't mean to be rude. I'm sure you were plenty resourceful with all of that magic that you talked about when I came in and you were like, "Who are you? I have magic." I felt very threatened, by the way. Good job on the menacingness. Is there a place you're hurrying to? You stuffed your bag pretty quick. I know you said you need to go to the kingdom, but it'll still be there whenever you decide to leave. It's not really a disappears at midnight situation. So, good. She straightens out her dress and sort of takes the pages that fell back out of the bag in her hurry and picks them up, straightens them out, very trying to act more calm than she is, being like, I am okay, I'm very normal, do you see how normal I'm acting? I'm great. uh I am on the way to the kingdom for a trip, and I suppose I have no time of appointment. So you are right. I can take my time. I just like to be prompt for things. I like to be early. Early is on time, and on time is late. And that is the way that things go when you are a student and you're trying to impress everyone. You still haven't explained things to me. Why are you going to my home? If did you ever give a clear explanation on this? Also, can we walk and talk? I do still have places to be, even if it will still be there. I'm not big for having to travel after dark if I don't need to. Things happen, you know. And he doesn't really respond to that part. He will just pick up his own bags. And not that there really is a door for him to hold open, but he gestures like, please go first, like he is doing the gentlemanly thing. And she says, thank you, and will walk out. And on their journey they go. But then what?
But then what?
But then what? They get a few miles up the road before the assassin simply just says, so I know you're hiding something. And she whips her head over. What? What? Stopping herself before she could say anything more incriminating. What do you know about the king? Their steps kind of match. You hear nothing but the crunch of their boots on the dirt road for a while, the singing of birds in the trees. Who are you? I know your name's Bertram, but you look like you're on a mission. I am on a mission. Are you gonna kill me? Please don't. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done that last night. You were sleeping very soundly, murmuring something about some kind of spell. Yeah, I sort of eat, sleep, dream, eat, live magic. It's great. Yeah, well, you know, I sort of eat, sleep, live, dream, assassinating people. She stops mid-sentence. He takes a few steps and then turns around casually with his arms up like, what? It can be a lucrative living, he says to her. Get the bad guys, make society better. She says, oh, a real one of those many, many people that I've heard a lot about. Maybe Maybe this was meant to be. Maybe we were meant to be on a mission together. But I happily have a partner, so don't get any wrong ideas, she says. Worrying again about herself and the situation. Okay. Can you answer my question now? What do you know about the king? Are you trying to assassinate him? What do you know about the king? Okay, but like if I tell you, it's not going to get back to me in any way, right? Like you're not going to put my face as like the culprit who gave you information, right? Like you don't have one of those stones that like takes your visage and then holds it for a long time or anything.
So good.
It's it's another probably 15 minutes of her planning out every single magical way this could incriminate her. Some of these that Bertram is mentally writing down because there's no way he would have thought of any of this. These are actually really good. She could probably be a halfway decent assassin someday, or at least she could assist them with magical means of infiltration. He's impressed beyond any amount he wants to be before she finally runs out of the ones that she can think of at this moment. And he butts in to say, "Look, I just want to know. Look, you know what? You've been straight with me. I think maybe I might want to assassinate the king. Maybe I might not. I don't know him. But that's why I'm asking you. Because if you tell me about him and he's not a great guy, then the chances of assassination might get a little higher." And the enchantress finds this uh supremely frank admission of potential murder to be okay, actually, in the sense that like he's honest about it. And so she says, just as they break through the tree line, um with the tall towers of the castle far in the distance, there's at least another 6 hours journey before they get to the capital. I don't know how time works. I don't know how far we are, but they'll be there by sundown because this is our story, and I said so. And she says to him, "Well, I knew him for a little bit. He wasn't very nice to me. Thought himself pretty high and mighty above everybody else because he was supposed to be this super awesome wizard in training. Um, except it didn't quite it didn't quite work out for him, I guess. Um, and so my teacher kicked him out because he just wasn't cutting it. Like snappy, like if he was going to like a real school, he definitely would have flunked out, right? Um, but yeah, so I got nothing against him. He's just not nice. Then what?
But then what?
So he wasn't nice. That is the worst you can give me about Charleston Basher is that he's not nice. I mean, yeah, he wasn't nice. I never saw him do anything outright awful or murder worthy, but it wasn't he's just he's not kind. I don't quite understand how he's going to govern an entire kingdom in a way that is beneficial to anyone. And also, if he can't stay dedicated to his studies, how in the world do you stay dedicated to taking care of an entire kingdom. It just seems like a lot. Like a lot of responsibility for someone who's super not ready for it. But maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm a little harsh. Maybe I'm a little worried about the future of literally everything and how he could possibly fuck that up. Maybe that is just a simple worry of me and me alone. Maybe that is no one else's concern but mine, and also maybe some other people's. And maybe that's why I'm going to the kingdom. Is maybe I just want to make sure that he doesn't screw up literally everything. Perhaps you're taking an entire trip to the kingdom to babysit this man while he governs. Is that feasible? How long do you plan to stay? You only have one bag. I don't. That sort of requires a relocation situation. And you did yell at me that you have a partner, so wouldn't they be coming along with you in a relocation circle? Look, I am really here for one thing and one thing only. Is there anything at all anyone would have ever seen him do badly? I am willing to go back to Duckville to talk to insert name here, to do whatever it takes, honestly. I just am pretty set on this decision. I just really need a reason to do it because they don't love just random murder in the Assassin's Guild. It's like you gotta pledge an oath and everything, and it's a lot. If you break it, bad stuff happens. And one of them is that I can't just go murder willy-nilly. So like I just need even a reason as small as you once saw him steal an apple, and I can do that. I can deal with something that tiny. I don't think I ever saw him do that. He just isn't good. He's not a good person. He's not talented. He's not smart. And I feel bad saying that a little bit, but also I don't, because he flunked out. So.
Oh no, flunked out.
There was something off about.
Just bashing Basher, man.
We are, because he's not a good person. The vibes are not there.
Bad vibes.
Bad
Old
vibes.
Seabass. Also thought it'd be funny if their name was actually Inserta the Nom here.
Perfect.
Yeah. Big fan.
Everybody gets it wrong though, because they printed about her once in the paper and didn't do it right. The town crier said her name wrong, and so they were like, insert name here. Odd name, but all right. So now anyone that is not immediately in Duckville thinks that her name is insert name.
Yes. But our enchantress looks at the assassin. I've told you everything that I know, but I'm just supposed to keep an eye on him. You're welcome to come with me. Maybe he'll do something that we see. I don't think I'm supposed to be seen, so maybe you'd also help me to be stealthy. I don't think that insert name here really wants them to know that I'm here. So, alright, I guess I'm in no rush. Just need a reason. Okay. Alright. And they continue on the road, making small quips of conversation, light-hearted small talk between two somewhat cagey individuals. Mostly revolves around weather and food and favorite pets and very general things. Before they make it into the city, and it's not long as they head to toward the tavern closest to the castle itself, before they hear screams and shouts of people in the street. The city guard mobilizing, telling them to stay in their homes. And you see a flyer on the ground that our enchantress picks up, another daily headline that says, King Charleston Bashir. New ruling. All magics are now illegal to practice. The enchantress crumbles the paper again. Is this bad enough for you? She hands the paper to the assassin. Whoa. I thought you said he was just a little off, a little weird. Didn't think he had this at him based on what you told me. She looks at him. I didn't either. Maybe we should get to a lookout spot before we sleep, see what's going on. I know just where to go. The assassin wanders his way through the streets around the guards. They take to the shadows. One time, our enchantress having to cast a special spell to cloak them in darkness as the guards stomp by. They find their way up onto the rooftops of the nearby villages, or nearby buildings. And as they climb to the top of one just across the street from the castle, they had the perfect view directly into the throne room and King Bashir's bedroom. But then what?
As they get situated, it isn't long before King Bashir appears in the throne room, walking down the long red carpet that leads to the massive uh, pedestal on which sits a chair. Oh, my poor dog. I hear him whining. He sounds so sad. Um, the large pedestal that holds a chair very elegantly carved of dark wood, um, and not far behind him is that same individual that we saw in the darkened room with him. Um, the neutral face plastered, the neutral expression plastered on his face, as is always when he is in the presence of the king. And King Bashir sits on the throne, looking for all the world like the cat that got the cream. Um, and to our enchantress, who is not skilled in the ways of sneakery and uh, infiltration, their words only come muffled. But to Bertram, who is very skilled, he hears them talk of plans proceeding uh, according to the king's wishes, and uh, the man with him, who appears to be his advisor, questioning what their next move will be. And the king smiling, the his fingers continuing to steeple in front of him as he leans back, slouching lazily in the throne. He says, I just have to wait. You'll know when it's time, because I know she can't resist finding out what's going on. I don't know how long it'll be, but somebody's gonna come. Whether it's her, whether it's somebody else, I don't know. But this is the one thing, the absolute one thing that'll get them here. You mark my words, my friend. Two, one, but then what?
Love it.
As the enchantress in training, along with Bertram, approach, uh, he leads, sort of beckoning her to stay low as they overhear the conversation that's sort of happening over in this other room. She thinks better than to say anything out loud, although if you could hear the screaming in her head, you would know exactly how she feels right now. But her eyes do get very wide, and she sort of, like, color drains from her face. She becomes very pale, And she instantly starts to sweat thinking about what is coming next. He, in the opposite way, looks very stone-faced. And while he heard these words and understands the panic that is behind them, is not as invested in everything as much as he is thinking about the plan that is about to happen. And he pulls her back quickly behind a crate of food being delivered for the kitchen as guards walk past. He sits and waits for a moment, observing their patterns as they walk through hallways, counting, sort of in a way that he is not physically moving much, but that she can see him tap against the side of his body for every second and every march that he hears before they turn around and come back the same way. He observes the rafters above him, sort of looking to see if there is some sort of entry point into other rooms or an easy place to climb, anything that would get him out of, range of sight, essentially, easily. She continues to shake and sweat, watching him and thinking, why are you being so slow about this? Aren't you just supposed to go kill him? Isn't this what assassins do? And without another word, he looks, nods to her, and leaps into shadow, essentially climbing up a couple of crates, pulling himself onto rafters, and within seconds he is gone. Because there was no communication about it, she is fairly certain that he has just left her behind, and is not really taking it well as she sits behind this box, looks around at the ground because she can't climb or do fancy things like that, or at least, very least, has never tried. And waits again, thinking about his tapping, and waits for the last footfall that she thinks she's supposed to hear before she scrambles into the bedroom, knowing that right now it is empty. There you go. But then what?
Then what?
She clambers into a wardrobe and thinks to herself, better chance to try this now than ever. She places hands on the doors she's closed herself in, whispers words of magic. A familiar lightning-like glow fills her hands, her fingers, arcs through the wood as the wardrobe itself becomes enchanted. Begins to sort of clamber about the room. She's like, no, stop, just no walking yet, just stay still, we need to listen. And the wardrobe kind of comes to attention, almost as if it's not animated anymore. She listens. She doesn't hear anything. Only the voices of the advisor and the king. The advisor says, why do you hold such resentment towards these casters? And insert name here. We see the king, his steepled fingers, looks over towards the advisor. No one fails me. I'm the best at everything that I do. That's why, if no one else can do magic and I'm the only one, I'll be the best at that too. And as he says that, we see our assassin silently hopping behind. The advisor says, very well, my king. Very well. A look of discomfort crossing his face as soon as he turns back, crossing the throne room for a glass of water, sitting on a dais on the other side. And in the time it takes for him to turn back around, the king's head sits at his feet, blood slowly pouring down his body into the chair. Our enchantress hears nothing until a scream for the guards. She begins to worry. Oh God, he really did leave me. What the hell am I supposed to be doing? I'm stuck in this bedroom, stuck in this wardrobe. The wardrobe starts to move its small little wooden feet about, clambering on the floor. The assassin. Then
But
what?
then what? The assassin. Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay, the assassin. Oh man. What does he do? Hey, you know what? He's an assassin. The first thing that he does is to crawl back up into the rafters. Um, in the ensuing panic of guards coming in, the screams from the advisor, the panic and uh, just the full cacophony of movement that is happening within this chamber, no one notices that he has moved back up into the rafters and has begun to go back the way he came into this room. Um, and as he makes his swift exit, no one else notices also the panicked face of the advisor as the guards begin the process of removing the king's body from the throne, uh, and picking up his head and you know removing his lifeless form from this room. Nobody notices the very slight smile that begins to form on the face of the advisor, because the king was right. He knew that this first act would bring them to his door, maybe a little sooner than he anticipated, but in retrospect, it was a very good move to advise him to ban all magic from the kingdom. And he takes a moment, now that the guards have left, to relish this triumph, to look about the throne room, currently soiled with the unworthy blood of the former King Charleston Bashir, and to plot what his next move is before he distresses himself. He rips his collar out of his very put together coat. He musses his hair. He even goes so far as to go to the throne itself, dip his hands in the king's blood, and put it on himself. He must look presentable. But then what?
But then what?
After the enchantress hears the scream, she thinks that the wardrobe is maybe no longer the protection that she thought it would be in the first place. So she abruptly leaves it, but leaves it animated, if for only a while, and opens the door quite quickly, only enough to poke her head out. Bertram, 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 did you do that or was that somebody else? Bertram! And then she hears guards come through and sees a lifeless body. She ducks back in the room, shuts the door, and starts to panic before she realizes that in this moment she cannot do that. Oh, okay, dead body. He killed a dead body, but that fixes the problem, sort of. If he's a dead king, does anything he put into motion actually count anymore? These are great questions. Am I breaking the law if I do it now? He's dead. Or if I am breaking the law, could I feign the fact that I don't know that I'm breaking the law? We'll go with that one. And she walks out the door, watches as the guards carry the body out, walks back over to the crates that she saw Bertram climb up. Bertram! Bertram! Get down from the rafters right now. I swear to God, I need you! And, like, none of this is of a whisper, but she doesn't think there's anyone left around. So as Bertram sort of looks down and he holds up a finger to indicate you should be quiet. And she looks around for a second, sees a shadow move in what she saw to be the throne room earlier, and quickly ducks behind the same crate that had her shaking when she thought she was abandoned, and puts her hand over her mouth to make sure that her heavy breathing does not give her away. The advisor, now covered in this blood, walks to the door, and she can sort of see from her view that the walk itself is very normal. It is the way you would walk around anywhere in town, but as he gets a couple feet away from the door, he stops. She can hear him mess with his clothes one last time, and then he stumbles purposefully and wails out a big cry, this moan that is, letting everyone nearby know in any hallway, or as far as he's concerned, anyone in the kingdom can hear him at this point. He is distraught that his king has been killed, that he, as his loyal advisor, was the last one to see him before he was brutally murdered.
I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. As the assassin and the enchantress stumble toward this sound, the assassin points. Who are you? What are you doing? The guy looks back. I'm the king's advisor. Except with a swirl of the hands behind her back, the enchantress has cursed this man, changing his face to match that of a description they will give to the authorities. They saw the conversation. They heard what they did. This man is just as much an accomplice in King Bashir's work as anyone. And as our enchantress and Bertram give their statement, the spell holds just long enough for a trial to happen and the advisor to be imprisoned. Your enchantress heads back to Duckville. Not sure if she has done what she needed to do, but she certainly fulfilled a job. She went to the town. Now she knows to ask more questions next time. And Bertram, dressed with his bow and quiver of arrows on his back, heads back to the tower, closing the door to let the banners fall. And every assassin in the room cheers with joy at his success. His name to go down in history: Bertram the King Basher. And that is where we will end.
Oh my gosh.
Yay! That was so good.
Oh,
I will
God.
say he did die sooner than I thought he was going to.
Oh, really?
Knew he was gonna die. Just didn't think it'd be that soon.
You're like, nope, beheaded on the spot. Here's his head, here's his body, lots of blood, have fun
Right.
with that. And I was like, all right, we're efficient, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. But he was what, the 2-day king? Like he didn't even make it. He didn't even make it like 3 days.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had to get crowned, and
Mhm.
then the news had to travel,
Mhm.
and then it took them at least a day to get back there. So yeah, we'll call him the 3-day king.
3 whole days. A big 72 hours.
Yes. Well, this was incredible. Thank you both for being on. If you're watching live, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends. The edited audio version of this will be up wherever you find podcasts in a few weeks. But until then, where can folks find you both? What are you up to? What are you doing these days?
I went first for introductions, so Mallory, you go first this time.
Okay, sure. First of all, you can find me anywhere the internet may have to offer you. At moxxieblue, moxxieblue. That's where I put my schedule because it's easy to remember that it's all in one place across multiple places. There are too many social media accounts that you have to have nowadays.
Yes.
I can be found next on Saturday. I'm over at Live from the Apocalypse. We are playing a masks game. We're live streaming the podcast recording. And our game is a bunch of juvenile, delinquent superhero slash villains who made mistakes at one point or another and were put into a rehabilitation center. And everyone else is just there because they did like one small wrong thing. And then there's my character who has a super sad backstory. And I may have hit it a little too hard. But it's a really super fun time. It's got a super talented cast. And we're there from 1 to 4 on Saturday if you want to come listen / watch. We record like 2 episodes a session, and it's some of the most fun I've ever had. The other thing that I'm doing right now is a lot of game design and pre-production stuff. So Solo But Not Alone 4 went live today. It is a collection of over 120 solo RPGs that are all there to raise money for mental health. So if you bought all of that individually, it's close to $500, and you can buy it for 10. And all of that money goes to take this. My game called Remember Us is in there. It's a solo journaling game that is based on grief and loss as you walk through your childhood home. And there may or may not be a supplement to that coming out very, very soon. So if you want to play the first one, you can go grab it there. And then you can just watch my Twitter, and I'll let you know when the second one's here.
Heck yeah.
Nice. Thank you for letting me know that, because I have a goal this year to play at least 2 journaling TTRPGs a month. So gonna do that and cry a lot. Gonna do that and feel my feels.
That's super fair of you.
And you can find me across the internet at LaTiaJacquise, or at my website, LaTiaJacquise.com, or at my brand new Patreon, which you don't have to pay any money to join, but if you do, if you join it, you'll get cool things like me talking about the solo journaling TTRPGs that I'm gonna play, and the recipes that I'm planning on cooking, and my personal world building challenge for 2024. It's all about the content, but I just needed a place to put it. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me. I don't have a whole lot going on right now, but I will say, if you were a fan of my show Rivals of Waterdeep, which ended last June, we just did a one shot with Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms that you can actually see on our YouTube channel. You can look that up at Rivals of Waterdeep, or it might be on theirs too. I'm pretty sure it's on theirs too. But yeah, I just sit on the internet and yell about the stuff that I love and the stuff that other people do that I love. So you can just come and find me and yell with me, I guess. 2024 is the year of yelling. I've made it so.
I love that, actually. Cool. I'm Siera Mystic. You can find me anywhere at mystic_musings_ some variation of the like, wherever you are online. I'm not super active on social media, but if I do something, I normally post about it, so you can stay up to date there. What else? You can catch me every Monday here on this channel as the DM of our Utopia podcast. We're at the end of a very interesting horror-esque arc where the party is taking on the Nightmare King and also a inconceivably round-eyed celestial being at the same time. It's a thing. You just gotta tune in, I guess, to find that out. Lots of new stuff coming as well in the new year. And just like the end of last year, you can find my collection of short stories called We May Not All Be Heroes out in the world. Wherever you order your books online, you can find it. It's a collection of 10 flash fiction stories based on the NPCs of the world of Utopia. Because, you know, we might not all be heroes, but we all have stories to tell.
Heck yeah.
Thank you all so much. Thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.